Hey, welcome to Mike's Trains, and thanks for joining me for the next video in the series. This is part 2 of the redo of this gas station. This is another building that's going to go into the new city build. It's something that was on my layout, and if you watched the first video, I gave you a look at what it looked like at that point. I've done a little bit of work with this. This building here, you notice I pulled out all the windows and doors, everything's out, and I'm just going to set this to the side. Like I said last time, I don't know that I'm going to do anything with that building in this video series. I want to focus on this, and this might look a little bit different than it did in the last video. That's because I stripped this whole thing down. I pulled off these red bars, all the lettering on the side here, and then the biggest thing that I did was I cut, originally there were square rod right here and right here. Now I've repainted these so they look a little different than they did, but I cut off the square rods. This is what used to be in there right here. There were 4 of these, and I can't use these. What we're going to do, as I talked about last time, is we're going to light the underneath of this. And in order to do that, I need to be able to get wire from the top here out the bottom. So those had to be replaced. And what I've done was, here's what I did. So I pulled this apart like this. So I cut off the square rod, and then I re-drilled all the 4 spots where those rods were in here. Okay, so those were re-drilled, and then I used my clippers again, and I cut the rods off of these islands here, and drilled those for the same size as the roof, and we did that for both of these. And then I have this rod right here. I have a whole pack of this. This is 1/8 inch rod. And I'm using this because this is the wire I use to wire all my lighting. And it's 22 gauge stranded wire, but I need to get it from the top here down through the tubing, so this will fit through here like this. And it'll come right out the bottom. And this will run onto the roof, and then I can do what I need to do on the roof. Alright, so that's the idea with this. Now I can get wiring and I can get power to the roof. So this is all what I've done so far. So we've got a nice coat of yellow. Originally when I built this kit, I painted it with a paintbrush. This I had done long before I started doing airbrush, long before I started doing any of the things that I do now, and I've learned quite a bit, so I was able to redo this. Why don't we move on? Let's talk about the LEDs that are going to go in here. Okay, so these are the LEDs I'm going to use. These are mini LEDs. This is what they look like. They're very small. And this is what I'm going to use because they don't take a lot of space. Alright. And what these are, this might sound kind of funny, but I went to Target, I think I was at, so department store near me, and I was looking around at the seasonal lighting. My wife wanted to buy some seasonal lighting, and I happened to come across, they have these short strands of battery operated LEDs, and they come just like this, okay, except they come in a big strand, and it's copper wire, and they come like this, then the next one, and the next one, and the next one, and you're supposed to be able to hang them up. At the end of the strip there's a little battery compartment with an on-off switch. I think this strand for 30 bulbs was like $9. I don't know, somewhere between $5 and $9. What I did was I brought it home and I clipped off at the end of each bulb right here. Alright, so I clipped it off, And that left me one LED with 2 long strands. And you don't have to worry about the copper on these. The copper on here has a lacquer coating on it, I found out, because I was very disappointed that I couldn't make them work. And I couldn't understand why. And what it is these lights, when you cut them apart, they have a copper coating. I mean a lacquer coating on the wire, because this is the actual exposed wire that you see when you're using them. So you have to take or what I did was I took a little flame off my lighter here and I just burned the end, and it burns off all the lacquer that's on the end. Okay, and once you burn off the ends like this, you can hook power up to it. Now let me just give you a quick view as to what I'm using for a power supply here that I do all my testing with. It's right there. This is what I do all my testing for my LEDs with, and I can adjust the voltage right here. I can turn it up. It goes all the way to 15 volts. And this is what I use to test all my lights with. And then off of that, I have my test leads right here. So what I'm going to do is I want to find out what these run at. Now I've already gone through and I've already tested these, and then I marked off, I black sharpied the negative leg so that I know what I've got going on. I don't have to refigure it out. So that should be that, and then we can take this, see, and we have a nice bright light. Now these should go up to about right there. That's 5 volts right there. So they're fairly bright. They're not super bright, but they're bright enough. They're cheap and they're easy to get. If you don't if you don't burn the end of the wire, you could probably use like a razor blade, but this is what happens if you hit it up here where I haven't stripped the wire. It just doesn't work. See, I haven't changed the voltage at all. Okay. So that's how they're able to, I couldn't figure out how they were able to put power through these, but yet not short them out, because the copper's touching, you know, when you're putting them together and all like this. And this is the actual wire. So I figured it out. So that, anyway, that's how these work. If you're looking for some cheaper lights to use and you want really small, this is the way to go. What we're gonna do is I've decided I'm gonna put 2 lights per side of the pump. So it's gonna be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we're gonna go just set back off the we use these poles, because these poles, when you look at this, go this way, okay, from underneath, right? So if you're looking at it like this, if we put a light here and here, so we'll line them up with the poles, I think, is what we're going to end up doing in each one of these. So what we need to do is drill the holes in here to allow the light to come through. So why don't we start with that? Let me figure out what drill we're going to use, and we'll start drilling those holes in there. Alright, so what we're going to use is we're going to drill an extra 1/8 inch hole for each of these bulbs. Alright, so what I want to do, and this is for my own, I mean maybe somebody else wouldn't get mixed up in here, but I want to make sure, since I'm drilling the holes in the same place that the poles are going to go through, and we're drilling them the same size. I'm drilling an 1/8 inch hole. I'm going to mark these holes so I know that the poles are going to go with these holes. I don't want to misalign anything when we start assembling it all. Alright, so that'll go like that. So that's those 4 holes. Now, I want to mark off, we want to put another line out, and so it's 5/16 in. So I'm just going to mark the roof here. That's how I'm going to do the lighting, and then we're going to do the lighting. I'll measure out and we'll put a cross mark this way on each one of these, and that'll get be the drill point for each of the holes. So then we do the same thing for this side. So there's the first round. Now we just need to figure out how far in for each of these. And we want to figure, so if this runs across here, the center of the lane, we want to figure out the center point here and here, here and here. And that will tell us how far in to go on each side on the other. So from there, it's 1 inch. So we're going to go a 1/2 inch in. So each one of these marks here now is where we're going to drill another 1/8 inch hole. The other thing I just wanted to say on this kit here, I did some extra work on this that I probably didn't mention earlier. The sides of this are not quite high enough for what I want to do, so I added on this styrene here is 40 thousandths thick. Okay, so I took some 40 thousandths by 40 thousandths square strip and I glued it to the top of this sides here all the way around. So I raised it up, made the side here 40 thousandths of an inch higher. It's just a little bit, it's not a lot, but it should be enough to get this thing looking like it's supposed to. Now we want to just drill an 1/8 inch hole on each of those marks. So we get our pin vise out. Okay, so there's the first 2 holes. Let me go drill the last 6 of these and then we'll come back. Okay, so now I've drilled all the holes. Alright, and then I took my flat blade and I just went over the tops of the holes just to get off any styrene that kind of stood up over the holes. Now I'm going to take a round sanding stick and I'm just going to push it in a hole, and we're going to just spin it around in there a few times and get that stuff out of there. I want it to be a nice clean hole. Now we got what looks like a whole bunch of Swiss cheese, right? So clean out all our mess here. So now we have lights. So well, we have spots for the lights. So these will sit in here like this. Now you can see where the lights are going to be. Okay? Each side of the pump, and then we have the other one here. So it's a lot of lights, right? So let's go ahead and start setting up and getting ready for the wiring. Okay, so the next step is we need to start the wiring. So what I've done is I have copper strips. Now if you've watched any of my other videos, you've seen me use this. It's this copper tape. Alright, and I use this to do circuits where I don't have a lot of room for wire. So what I'm going to do is I'm making this the positive side on the outside. I'm going to run another strip, and then I'm going to connect them on the top as the negative side. So what that is, it's this stuff right here. Alright. I bought this on Amazon, and it's awesome. I love this stuff. What I've done is I've cut lengths of the strip. So I have little lengths of it here, right here. So I'm going to peel the tape, So it sticks on just like Scotch tape or anything else. Peel off the backing. And we're going to start this down at the end. So I want to go on this side of the bulb, but we don't want to touch the strip I've already got in place. And then after that's rolled into place, I'm going to take a strip of styrene here, and I'm just going to run down and I'm going to burnish this right into place. Alright, so here we are. Here's our little circuit board. Alright. Get all these little pieces of stuff off of here. Now, the LEDs, these are going to ride right inside of here like this. They're going to fit right in there. And we're going to CA glue them right in there. And then we're going to split the wiring out like this. And we're going to run a wire each side. So this will look something like that, and this will solder down to each of those points in the middle. So let me get my cutters, and we're going to cut this a little longer than we need right there. And right there. Alright, so I went and I cut down all the lengths of wires to the light bulbs, and I put them into the frame here. And you can see I made sure that all the negative sides were on this outside rail and all the positives were on this inside rail. Alright, so now all I need to do is solder those in and we should be good to go. So let me get those soldered in real quick. I'm still waiting on the... Oh, and I put a little CA around the outside of the holes, and I laid the bulbs on top of the CA. So, yeah, so I put CA around the hole, laid the bulb on top, and those are setting now. And as soon as that's dried, we're going to go ahead and solder all these connections. And then we can put some power to it and see that it works. So let me come back in a few minutes and we'll put some power to it and see how well it works. Alright, so I've gone and I've soldered all the connections in, and then you can see I actually marked right here. I have minus on the outside, plus on the inside. So this loop here is the negative side. This inner loop is the positive side. I've soldered all the bulbs. They're glued. I made sure to glue them over the holes. They're in the center. Here, let's see if we can look at this. Right in the center of each of these bulbs, you can see the actual bulb right there. Okay, so each one of these, the bulb is right there, and it's encased in plastic. And what I did was I made sure that each of the centers of these bulbs is glued over the hole, and you know, it doesn't cover the hole completely, but it's enough. And you can see how that looks. This is what we've got. I've added the lead wires here, and those are soldered. They come up right here, the positive one to right there, the negative one over here, solders in there. And then I went on to my power supply and I figured out how many volts these lights take. Now I want about 3 volts, 3 to 3.5 volts to power these lights. So I figured out the resistor and I added that in line right here. So we have that right here. So now I can hook this straight up to 12 volts and not have an issue. So at this point, this whole thing is pretty well done electrically. So why don't we hook this up to the power supply? Let me bring my leads up here, and we'll hook this up. So we'll go black to black, and red to red. Alright, and then we can turn this on. And you can see all the lights have just come on. Let me see if I can dim this down some. There we go. Maybe I can turn this one off too. So there you go. They're all lit. This one looks a little dim, and I don't know what's up with the bulb. I think it's a faulty bulb because the rest of them are all working just fine. So this is how this is gonna look. Wow. This is what it looks like from underneath. So the lights are all lit, and it looks pretty good. But anyway, let me shut this down. We'll pull the lights back up. Okay, so now this is all done. Now we have to close up the roof here, right? So we need to cover this. This obviously isn't going to work if we leave this all covered up. So what I've done is I got a piece of styrene. This is corrugated styrene, right? And I just weathered it to look like a rusted piece of steel. And I think it did fairly well. I think it's pretty good. And this is what's going to go on the top here. So we have this, and this will fit right on top, and then we'll just drop that right down inside all the way in. And that's the roof for the whole canopy. And that's how that's going to sit. And then you have the lights underneath that'll light up with the roof on top. And no one's the wiser as to what's underneath here. You just know that there are lights in there. So that's the whole thing. The only thing I need to do is put a little bit of filler underneath this here, underneath this corrugated, so that I don't get light bleed through the edges. There's a little bit there. It's not much, but it's a little bit. I'd like to get rid of it. So that's it for this. The only thing left that I need to do is I want to put the hoses here on the pumps. There are small holes right here. I have to drill these out a little bit bigger. And we're going to run some hose down here, gas pump hoses, on all 4 of the pumps. So there's going to be 8 hoses. And then after that, it's just to get the building itself done, which is right here. And then, I don't know, I think I showed you earlier, but I've already pulled the windows out, and all I'm going to do is just, these are all stickers, they're not even decals. I'm going to scrape all that stuff off, and I'm going to redo this building. I'm going to strip it down. This was painted much like the canopy with a paintbrush instead of spraying. Back when I built this, I didn't really know how to do that stuff. I didn't have an airbrush. Obviously things have changed, so we're going to update this to my current standards of what I do. Full interior and lighting. I wasn't planning on showing this on video, on doing this on video, this building here. If you'd like to see the process of how that gets done, let me know. If there's enough people that want to see it, I will do the video for it. If not, I'm just going to fly right through it on my own off camera and then give you a look at it as a completed unit with the gas station here when it's done. So anyway, that's going to be it for this week. If you're just finding me for the first time, please, by all means, please subscribe to my channel. Love to have you along for the ride. Always good to have new people. If you haven't visited my website yet, it's mikestrains.wordpress.com. Over there you'll find more pictures of my layout if you'd like to see more of the stuff that I've done. The other thing I have over there is there's an HO scale layout I'm building for my father at his house, and I have some photos of some of the more finished areas on the website for that as well, if you're interested in seeing it. So again, that's it for this week. So until next time, happy modeling.